Morning guys, so happy Memorial Day. I just wanted to take a minute to come in and share my experiences with freedom and homesteading and ancestry and that kind of thing. Thank you, honey. And what Memorial Day makes me think of is my grandmother. I have one grandmother in particular who was extremely frugal, and she always had a garden. She worked really hard her whole life. And I also have one grandfather who was in the Second World War. He served in, I believe it was in France. And for those grandparents who lived through wars and who lived through depression and hard times, they always had gardens. They just were really focused on being able to take care of their own families and not needing someone else to take care of their families for them. They had to live on food stamps, not food stamps, what were they called? They were those coupon books that meant that you could only have sugar, a certain amount of sugar a week and a certain amount of butter a week. What were they called? What were they called? It wasn't food stamps. Go get water for the rest of the goats, okay? Thank you. Good morning, Eater. Howling Dog Ranch. And so I think of those grandmothers, and I don't know how much of that was instilled in me to make me want to homestead. I think for me, homesteading meant freedom for me because I had illnesses, that by making my own food, I had freedom from ill health, I had freedom from pain, I had freedom from depression. And so on Memorial Day, I think about those grandparents. I think about the grandparents and what they did to protect and take care of their families. And I think in our current political climate, in our current day world, one thing that I get concerned about is not necessarily, I guess to some degree, children not understanding the sacrifices that have been made for our country, but also the skills that are needed if ever there were hard times again. Anybody who has been in the military has seen other countries where there have been hard times, or they've helped in emergency situations in our country, like if they're in the National Guard being deployed to go help when there's emergencies, like in Oklahoma right now. They have flooding. And I think that homesteads are a really great setting to teach children self-reliance and skills and courage, not just the actions of having chickens and homesteading and having fruit trees and that kind of thing, but human beings, our needs have not changed ever. And as long as we've been on the earth, we've always needed to eat, we've needed exercise, we've needed fresh air, we've needed shelter. And I think in many instances, we as people are so reliant on technology and on other people providing these things for us that we forget that our needs in all these years have never changed. In all these centuries, in all these millennia, our needs have never changed. We still need to eat. We need to have strong physical bodies. And I think a lot of times some of the gym memberships and some of the, and even some of, to some degree, what the military does now in their training is to bring us back up to the point where we can be physical beings instead of necessarily always cranial beings. And so hopefully I'm not like rambling too much on this, because I do pay due respect to the military and their service. And I feel like in our own independent lives, we can build our freedom, we can build our strength, we can build our spirituality in our own homes to the degree that if our nation was in trouble, we would be more capable of handling that and more capable of answering the call to protect ourselves or to create our own food or to do whatever we needed to do if we were more involved in our own daily maintenance and lives. Good morning, good morning. So that was just kind of my take on it. Is I think homesteads are a really good school for life for our kids. Even if they don't choose to homestead down the road, I think that the school of life is not learned on a couch playing war video games. I think we learn more about our world by being out and being involved in it. And I don't think you have to have a lot of property to do that. You can do that in a backyard. But I do think that it needs to be intensive enough that it's real. It needs to be real chores. It needs to be real responsibilities. It needs to be real time outside, not token 10 minutes here and a token 10 minutes there. I think it needs to be bigger and more involved. And if we have a problem doing that, I think we need to open up our eyes and see how we're not living up to our ancestors and what it is that they have provided for us and the sacrifices that they made for us. And what are we doing with our physical stewardship over our bodies and over our land and over our communities by limiting ourselves to war video games or occasionally mowing the lawn and thinking that's enough outdoor time and enough involvement in our own lives. And that's my soapbox. So I'm going to go finish my chores. If you have any thoughts on that, of how we can all be more involved in our lives and taking responsibility for ourselves instead of waiting for emergency times and then expecting somebody else to take care of us. We all have ways that we can improve. How is it that you're improving? How is it that you're teaching your children to answer the call of duty, whether it is in the military or in your own home, being responsible for themselves, being part of the community, and embracing this beautiful life that we have. So go ahead and leave that comment for me. I know I've only been on for 6 minutes, but I do have to go do chores. And you can see it doesn't have to be fancy. The girls actually built this. We had the chickens coming and we already had the chicken coop, but the girls decided we had to have a fence for the chickens. And so the girls brought out these pallets and they used baling twine to put it together, and then when the chickens were getting out, they put some chicken fencing around it, and they just made do with what they had. And it doesn't have to be any better than that. You just do what you can. And you improve and you grow. Even now, with the work that we're doing on our property, my dad is teaching me how to do a lot of this remodeling stuff. And so even at 40 years old, I'm learning from my dad, and I think it's better than a family reunion or some other kind of recreational activity, because I'm really learning from him. It's something that I can keep and I can use again. So happy Memorial Day. May we all remember all the things that we should remember in our lives, and especially those who have sacrificed for us. And we'll talk to you later if I can figure out how to turn it off, because sometimes